Hello Tanga, welcome to GullyClassroom. This is the fourth lecture in the unit in the chapter Manufacturing Industries in CBSE 10th Standard Geography Chapter 6 Manufacturing Industries. This is our fourth lecture. In this fourth lecture of Manufacturing Industries, we are going to study about mineral based industries. We are going to especially look at two mineral based industries, iron and steel industries and aluminium smelting industries. Before we get into this, first, what are minerals? Minerals are metallic and non-metallic resources that are extracted, that are taken up from the earth's surface, Okay, let us go for iron and steel industries. We will study iron and steel industries with respect to three major topics. We will study the importance of iron and steel industries to India. We will study why iron and steel industries are located around Chota-Nagpur Plateau. Also, we will study the limitations of iron and steel industries in India. We will study about the limitations of iron and steel industries in India. Okay, let us go to the first topic. Iron and steel industries are the index of a country's development. What is index? What is the meaning of the word index? Index means a marker. Index means an indication. Index means a marker. Index means an indication. So, the iron and steel industries are in fact indicating the growth of a country. They are indicating a country's development. How? Iron and steel industries are called as the basic industries. Why? Iron and steel industries provide all the different kinds of machines, the machinery that is needed for the heavy, medium and light industry. For the heavy, medium and light industries. So, all different types of heavy, medium and light industries depend upon the basic industry of iron and steel for their raw material. Sir, what is the raw material? Basically, iron and steel. In fact, the steel that is supplied by the iron and steel industry. Let me repeat. The steel that is supplied by the iron and steel industry is used in the manufacturing of engineering goods, construction material, defense, medical, telephonic and scientific equipment. Defense, medical and telephonic equipment. Defense, medical, telephonic and scientific equipment. In fact, the amount of steel that is being produced in a country and the amount of steel that is being consumed in a country will give you an indication of how much machines is there in the country, will give you an indication of how much buildings are being constructed in the country, will give you an indication of how much industrial development is happening in that particular country. Why, sir? In construction, in industrial development, in the manufacturing of machines, steel plays a very vital role. Steel plays a very vital role. So the manufacturing of steel will give an index of a country's development. Okay, what is the other name for iron and steel industry? Iron and steel industry is also called as heavy industry. Why, sir? Because the raw material of iron and steel industry is also heavy and bulky. The raw material of iron and steel industry is also heavy and bulky. The output, the finished product of iron and steel is also heavy and bulky. The finished product of iron and steel is also heavy and bulky. Okay, so what is the raw material of iron and steel industry? Iron and steel industry is using iron ore, coal and limestone in the ratio 4:2:1. Let me repeat. Iron and steel industry uses iron ore, coke and limestone. Okay, sir, here it is given coal. Coal is another form of coke. In fact, coal when it is purified, it gives you coke. Coke is a purest form of carbon. You will study this in chemistry. In metal extraction, coke is a purest form of carbon. Okay, so you are going to use coke or coal, iron ore, coal plus limestone in a ratio 4:2:1. is used as the raw material for iron and steel industry. It is used as a raw material for steel manufacturing. What is the finished good of iron and steel industry? Obviously a lot of iron and steel which is manufactured with the required quality, with the required density, with the required length and so on. So that is also going to be heavy. Because the raw material and the finished goods in iron and steel industry is very heavy, the transportation cost is very high. So in order to reduce the transportation cost, most of the iron and steel industry are located where you are going to extract iron from the earth. Where you are going to extract iron from the earth. Are you comfortable? Because iron and steel industry has both heavy raw material and heavy finished goods. It is called as heavy industry. Manganese is used for hardening steel. So what is the speciality of India with respect to iron production? India is the largest producer of sponge iron. India is the largest producer of sponge iron. Now this is the significance of iron and steel industry with respect to India. Why is iron and steel industry located in Chota-Nagpur Plateau? I have already told you, iron and steel industry is called as heavy industry because the raw material is also heavy, the finished good is also heavy. Chota-Nagpur Plateau is a good source of iron ore because you can extract iron ore from Chota-Nagpur Plateau, and transporting this iron ore is a costly affair. Transporting this iron ore is a costly affair. What are they doing? They are simply locating all the iron and steel industry in Chota-Nagpur Plateau itself. Low cost of iron ore because transportation costs are very less. You are literally extracting them and giving them to the industry which are located very nearby. Sir, give me another word for nearby. In proximity. Oh, so proximity means nearby. Yes, proximity means nearby. High grade of raw material in proximity. So Chota-Nagpur Plateau has low cost of iron ore and also high grade of raw material in proximity. Proximity means nearby. Wait a second, sir. I know this word proximity. Where have I studied it? You have studied it in, you might have studied it in biology. Proximal convoluted tubule. Sir, what is proximal convoluted tubule? In the structure of a nephron, in kidney there is nephron, right? Okay, let us say there is Bowman's capsule in the kidney. The convoluted tubule that is nearby to Bowman's capsule is called as proximal convoluted tubule. The convoluted tubule that is at a distance, from the Bowman's capsule is called as distal convoluted tubule because it is at a distance. The nearby convoluted tubule is called as proximal convoluted tubule, PCT. The convoluted tubule that is at a distance is called as distal convoluted tubule, DCT. Connect those things. So proximity means nearby. Okay, sir. Let us get back to the subject. What is the third point? Around Chota-Nagpur Plateau, you have cheap labor. Sir, what is the last point? There is a vast growth potential for iron and steel industry in the home market. There are a lot of constructions happening in India. There are many industries developing in India. They will need a lot of iron and steel. So, the iron and steel industry will flourish in India because we consume a lot of iron and steel. We use a lot of iron and steel. Okay, let us recall all the 4 points. Low cost of iron ore, high grade of raw material in close proximity, cheap labor, and vast growth potential in home market. Home market means in Indian market. Sir, what about the limitations of iron and steel industry? Iron and steel industry, what are the limitations? High cost and limited availability of coking coal. We already studied coal will be converted to coke and then used in extraction of iron. So that is called as coking coal. This coking coal is high cost and it is also has limited availability. It is not available in abundant quantity. It has limited availability. Sir, what is coking coal used for? There is iron ore. When you get iron oxide, you will simply add coke. What is coke? Coke is the purest form of carbon. Remember, coke is the purest form of carbon. Once you have added coke, the carbon will take the oxygen and go off. The carbon will take the oxygen and go off as carbon dioxide. It will leave behind the actual iron. It will leave behind the actual iron. This is basically reduction. Sir, what is reduction? Loss of oxygen is reduction. Anyway, let us get back to the subject. So, what is the second limitation? Lower productivity of labor. Because the people in the Chota-Nagpur Plateau region are not well trained. They are giving us less productivity. Irregular supply of energy. The current supply is erratic. What is the meaning of erratic, sir? Irregular. So, irregular supply, current energy. Poor infrastructure. We need better industries. We need better roads to carry our iron and steel. We need better infrastructure. But we have poor infrastructure. So what are the limitations? Let us do a fast recollection. High cost and limited availability of coking coal, lower productivity of labor, irregular supply of energy and poor infrastructure. Irregular supply of energy and poor infrastructure. Okay, sir. What is our government doing in order to improve iron and steel industry? Our government is implementing liberalization and FDI. Sir, what is liberalization and FDI? Liberalization is the idea where the government is taking away the restricting laws that prohibit the growth of the industries. The government wants to encourage the growth of industries. In order to encourage the growth of industries, they scrap the laws. They throw away the laws that hold the industries from their growth, that stop the industries from their growth potential. That is basically called as liberalization. What is FDI, sir? FDI means foreign direct investment. People who are in other countries, investors who are in other countries can take a lot of money and put it in India and start their companies. That is called as foreign direct investment. It generates a lot of employment and economic opportunities for the people in India. We will learn about liberalization and FDI in the unit globalization. We will learn about liberalization and FDI in detail in the unit globalization in economics. Globalization in economics. Okay, sir. What are the two different types of iron and steel industries? There are two types of iron and steel industries. Integrated iron and steel industry, mini iron and steel industry. In fact, integrated steel industry, mini steel industry. In integrated steel industry, it is very, very large. It is very, very complex. Mini, as the name suggests, mini steel industry is very, very small, complex. Integrated iron and steel industry is going to use the raw material as, what is the raw material? Iron ore. Mini steel industry is going to use the raw material, scrap iron, whatever iron you are throwing for recycling. Whatever iron you are throwing for recycling is used as the raw material in mini steel plants. Okay, sir. In integrated iron industry, in integrated steel industry, the raw material iron ore is cooked in blast furnace. Is cooked in blast furnace. Is processed in blast furnace. Blast furnace is a very, very large furnace. Okay, what about mini steel plant, sir? In mini steel plant, the scrap iron is processed in, is cooked in. Where is it cooked or processed, sir? It is cooked in electric furnaces. It is cooked in electric furnaces. Okay, sir. What about the finished good in integrated steel plants? In integrated steel plants, the finished good will be steel of good quality. You can get any type of steel from integrated steel plants. You can have steel sheets, you can do rolling process, that you can do so many processes in integrated steel plants. But in mini steel plants, you can only get a mild quality steel. But in mini steel plants, you will only get a mild quality steel. This is basically the four differences between integrated steel plants and mini steel plants. Integrated steel plants and mini steel plants. Okay, sir. What about aluminium smelting industry? Aluminium is the second most important metallurgical industry in India. Why, sir? Because aluminium is basically very, very light. It is resistant to corrosion. Why is aluminium resistant to corrosion? There is aluminium. Initially, aluminium is forming aluminium oxide layer. This aluminium oxide layer formed will protect the aluminium underneath from further corrosion. This aluminium oxide layer formed will protect the aluminium that is lying underneath this layer from further corrosion. Right. That's a point from chemistry. Anyway, let us come back to the subject. So it is resistant to corrosion. Aluminium is also a good conductor of heat and electricity, and it is malleable. What is malleable, sir? The idea of malleability is aluminium can be beaten into very thin sheets. Aluminium can be beaten into very thin sheets. Okay, because of all these good qualities, it is lightweight, it can be beaten into thin sheets, so it is obviously used in aeroplanes. And other vehicles, used in utensils and wires. Aluminium smelting plants are located in Odisha, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. Aluminium is extracted from a raw material, ore, which is called as bauxite. What is the ore from which aluminium is extracted? It is extracted from bauxite, which is a bulkish rock. Sir, how are we supposed to improve aluminium industry? We can improve aluminium industry by having regular electricity supply and assured source of raw material, by constantly giving good raw material. That's basically aluminium industry. Okay. That's the end of this lecture. How are you going to give importance and study this lecture? You are going to study this lecture. First, give importance to Chota-Nagpur Plateau. Why is iron and steel industry? Why is iron and steel industry concentrated in Chota-Nagpur Plateau? That is a 5-star question. Give it more importance. What about this? Okay. How is iron and steel industry the index of a country's development? That is a 4-star question with respect to your board exams. Limitations. You can study limitations as a 3-star question. That is basically the relative importance of these 3 questions. Concentrate here. You will get these questions in the board exam. So you can write these points and score excellent marks. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the lecture. Cheers and thank you for listening to me. If you like this lecture, obviously click the bell icon, subscribe to us, put like, share this video to your friends. What else? I will see you guys in the next lecture. Hope to meet you guys in the next lecture. Cheers and thank you, Tanga. Cheers and thank you.